This video is based on Lingshan Hermit's work Those Hidden and Intricate Desires. All rights reserved. Any infringement will be pursued. Many people are, in truth, like this. Though they study the Dharma, though they know in theory that greed is unwholesome, though they present themselves as staunchly opposed to greed, they do not actually know what greed is, and they are even less capable of connecting their everyday thoughts and behaviors to anything so named. Mention greed, and their minds will conjure someone like a miserly village elder, obsessed with money and forever outsmarted by cleverer folk, the kind of figure they feel. Who truly qualifies as greedy? They never think of themselves as greedy people. After all, they are not particularly attached to money, and have always been generous. But the objects of greed are not limited to money. What you may be grasping at could be far more subtle. A certain feeling, the feeling of being recognized, of receiving more attention, of cognitive superiority, or of having control over everything. In much the same way, we almost never define as greed our wanting everything to go well, our wanting to hold on to everything, our wanting everything to be defined on our own terms. We call it a longing for a good life. But in truth, wanting everything to go well and wanting to hold on to everything is a vast and hidden greed. Just as wanting everything to run smoothly is a greed rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of how the world works. According to the laws of cyclic existence, it is simply impossible for everything to go well, impossible to hold on to everything, impossible for everything to go as we wish, impossible for everything to proceed without friction. This is true not only for us ordinary beings. Even the Buddha and Padmasambhava could not accomplish it. The fact is, no one in this world can. Yet we do not typically define this kind of perpetually unrealizable expectation as greed. And because we do not name it as greed, we go on pursuing it. On the surface, this is because we lack understanding of samsara. At a deeper level, it is because we have never truly believed what the Buddha and our teachers have said. We all carry many hidden and intricate desires. We want to feel special. We want to be able to control everything. We want to be comfortable forever. For most of the time, you are completely unaware of these desires. They become entangled with hope, which makes them look nothing like greed at all. And the root of every desire, without exception, is a lack of understanding of how the world actually works. I once had a student who sometimes needed to point out other people's mistakes. But every time she did, she would begin with, "Not that I'm saying anything, pay attention to this phrase," because concealed within it is a great act of self-protection, a concealed grasping. She was calling out someone else's problem, yes, but she also did not want to offend them. She wanted to be able to identify the problem while simultaneously not making the other person uncomfortable. She wanted to have both at once. At an unconscious level, she probably wanted everyone to like her. Many people share this hidden tendency. They want everyone to like them. This is hidden greed. Behind this greed stands a self saturated with fear and craving for approval. A self that wants others' validation, wants to be liked, wants a good reputation, wants to extract enough feedback from others to feed itself. Greedy people typically cannot accept imperfection. They want everything to go well, everything to proceed on their own terms, the world to revolve around them forever. Behind all this wanting hides an enormous insecurity. I have encountered practitioners who are profoundly greedy, but are entirely unaware of it. They want everything to unfold according to their own pace and manner, and not only do they want things to be good for themselves, they also want things to be good for their families. I am not saying you should not wish your family well, of course you should, but that good cannot be defined on your terms alone. Yet the faith and effort they have actually invested is barely enough to bring about improvement in themselves, let alone in their families. It is like paying 1 yuan and expecting a banquet worth 10,000. And their idea of getting better does not mean becoming more faithful, more empathetic, kinder. It means not getting ill, living long, having plenty of money, and sustaining all of this indefinitely, living without pain forever. If you have studied the preliminary practices, if you genuinely understand what samsara is, you will know how profoundly contrary to the Dharma this kind of thinking is. How this expectation is built almost entirely upon contempt for the teachings of the Buddha and the lineage masters. And this is precisely what we mean by the most extreme greed. People like this are typically unable to achieve these things through ordinary worldly means. Many of them have failed catastrophically in worldly life, and so they turn to the Dharma, hoping to use it to make everything go their way. And so, though they appear to be practicing the Dharma, what they are actually cultivating is their own greed. Without exception, they produce immense suffering for themselves. Because the world will not conform to their wishes, they are easily consumed by their own greed, and so they are compelled to forcibly press the world into submission. But the world will not be pressed into submission. That is precisely where their suffering comes from. Put another way, their lack of understanding of the world's actual nature leads them to believe they can find some form of lasting happiness within samsara, leads them to hold unrealistic expectations of samsara, but they cannot make those expectations real. And so, in the end, they can only try to realize them through harming others, through deception and predation, trying, through these means, to make everything go well and everything run smoothly. But this only invites greater chaos and disaster. Eventually they are exhausted in their frantic struggle, like someone trying to hold 4 rubber balls underwater at the same time. As practitioners, we should be using the Dharma to catch our greed, to put our greed to death. Instead, we are using the Dharma to feed our greed, to realize our greed. This sounds absurd, but it is what a great many so-called practitioners do continuously. You should understand that a very large part of what the Dharma teaches is the acceptance of imperfection. It is telling you that the world cannot possibly function as you imagine it should, that you will never be able to straighten out the world, just as you will never be able to make a dog's tail grow straight. A so-called Dzogchen practitioner once said to me, "Desire has no intrinsic nature." From the highest view, it is true. Desire has no intrinsic nature, but it cannot be denied that, though it lacks intrinsic nature, it still exercises a powerful hold over us. Many people mistakenly assume that having no intrinsic nature means not existing. But lacking intrinsic nature does not mean non-existence. It does not mean having no function. And it certainly does not mean having no power over you. Everything in this world lacks intrinsic nature. The chair beneath your body and the blackheads on your nose are equally without intrinsic nature, yet you continue to regard them as real. And they continue to exercise a powerful hold over your life. So you had better take this intrinsically natureless greed seriously. I have known many people who came to grief precisely because of greed, because they did not know and would not acknowledge their own greed. Their greed was well concealed, even from themselves. They took it for ordinary human hope. And so, from beginning to end, they never knew they had been defeated by their own greed. One student I knew, for example, would whenever a dispute arose adopt the posture of a detached, impartial third party, and would sometimes even speak up on behalf of the opposing party, with whom he had no connection whatsoever. He apparently relished this sense of transcendence, this feeling of standing apart from both sides, uninvolved. He craved the sensation of being fair and impartial. This left all of his friends utterly bewildered, and so he eventually lost every friend he had, along with everyone's trust, leaving both his life and his practice in ruins.